Hello and welcome to another episode of the HEMA Show. We made it a whole week. We're back. Excellent. Let's crack on. Hello and welcome back again to the HEMA Show. The show where we go from everything for HEMA for news and views to help and advice. I, like always, am Stuart and this is edited by my handy pet Andrew. What we're looking at today's episode is, can HEMA be used for self-defense? And if so, what aspects can be applied? Short answer, no. No, it can't. Don't do it. Done. See you next week. Like any martial art, honestly, there's always that question. It comes up inevitably. Can it be used for self-defense? Can I do X, Y, Z for self-defense? The answer for me, always, categorically, no. I can't think of many people who would say other than that. Generally, the best piece of advice I can give anyone who does not even just HEMA, who does fencing, taekwondo, karate, krav, anything I would say to anyone is best thing you can do in self-defense is run away, kick them in the spuds and run. That's the best piece of advice, to be honest. There's absolutely no reason why you should put yourself at risk. Risk mitigation. There is nothing on your body, there is nothing you own, there is nothing, no monetary value that is worth more than you as a human. Just remember that. That's the best piece of advice I was ever told. There is nothing you own. There is no amount, no bonus, no monthly income that is more valuable than you as a person. So you are the most valuable commodity you have. Don't put it at risk. Someone comes up to you asking for your money, yeah, whatever, man, here you go. Or run, okay? But don't put you at risk. It's not worth it. That would be the most important thing I could say to you when it comes to HEMA and self-defense. So, why do I think that? It's tricky. Partly because I have been in fights before.
Ooh, you're hard. Where
I've tried to fight my corner, and generally when I've tried to stand up for myself is when it's gone pear-shaped. Just don't do it. Because what you have to remember, and this is, as a coach, is really important to point out to people, is there's a difference between people that fight like we do for entertainment, for sporting excellence, for fitness, for fun, okay? There's a difference between that and the desire to hurt someone. The motivation is totally different. The brain chemistry is totally different. It's not the same beast. Someone who wants to hurt someone, someone who's willing to cause bodily harm, bodily distress, it's a totally different set of kit in the head. So you may be a technically excellent fighter. You may have the best timing, the most beautiful distance, but you, to a certain degree, you're untrained. You are untrained in the concept of hurting someone. You are untrained in the concept of fighting for survival. All of our fighting, I fight for a living. My fighting is based around sports. It's a totally different beast. And until you're in that situation, you always think to myself, oh, yeah, I can fight, it's fine. I fight every week, I should be fine. But it's not. And someone who is willing to do these sort of things to people, typically, not always, but typically is the sort of person that is okay with that. And us in general, generally we're not. So honestly, the best piece of advice I would say is, doesn't matter how good you are at HEMA, or how good you think you may be, or how competent you think you may be at fighting, just don't. You have nothing that's more valuable than you. So don't do it, honestly. That would be the best piece of advice I can give you when it comes to HEMA and self-defense. And more importantly, a lot of what we do in HEMA, come to think of it, is sword-based. So can you use HEMA for self-defense? You really bloody shouldn't, because that would presuppose that you are carrying a sword around and to opportunistically be attacked when you have a sword upon you. In that instance, you're probably more likely to be attacked by SO19, which those guys fight to keep. So no, I think HEMA is not a self-defense sport. It's not geared up around that. It certainly isn't a situation where we train for that type of fighting. And there's a lot of assumptions that need to be done on that as well. You need to be carrying a sword, for example, for a start. Yeah, you could do some pugilism, you could do some wrestling, realistically. But to be honest, not even. There are very few forms of fighting that are as effective as a really angry drunk dude. So yeah, you can't just whip a saber out and start smacking a fool, because that's escalation. You know, I don't know what the laws are in other parts of the world, but any form of self-defense has to be reasonable, essentially, in this country. So somebody fighting you, you can fight back in defense. That's not necessarily a law break, but it gets incredibly muddy. But escalation, that's when stuff goes sideways. So yeah, I really wouldn't. Does that mean that you can't use elements of HEMA to protect yourself? Not necessarily. So there are things that we learn in HEMA that are incredibly helpful. Distance, for example. All of us have a very, very, very good idea of when a blade can hit us and can't hit us. Somebody comes out, pulls a knife on you. HEMA practitioners, realistically, are the people who have the most experience in distance of a knife or sword or so on and so forth. So most of us can see a knife and be like, ooh, take a step back, lean back, look, assess, analyze the reach, analyze the weapon. You can keep yourself out of distance a lot better than the average Joe. Also, we may not be as spooked at seeing a weapon than some people as well. Timing. You see an attack coming in, we have time to back up because we're used to dodging attacks. Okay, but you notice everything that is applicable in self-defense, it's not even self-defense, I would say at this point it's self-preservation, is pure safety. It is getting away, keeping distance, getting out of there. Okay, it's not take a parry, do this armbar, anything like that. Don't dick about. Don't dick about. Just get gone. That would be my advice, honestly. So, yeah, can I use HEMA for self-defense? No, it'd be stupid to. Use the police for self-defense. That's what they're paid to do. But it doesn't mean to say that things that we learn within HEMA aren't useful for self-defense. And that's pretty much my stance on it. And I can't see that changing anytime soon. Because if you're in a situation where you can use HEMA to protect yourself, probably shouldn't be. Like anything in life, it's prevention, man. If you think you're going to get in trouble, you think there may be trouble ahead, prevent it. Keep wise, keep your eyes open, that sort of stuff. Don't travel alone. Make sure people know where you are, you know, but nothing is more effective than a swift one to the spuds and run away. That's my advice. But again, like I say, I'm not a self-defense instructor. I'm untrained in self-defense. So just get out of there. Don't risk it. It's not worth it. Okay? But please, please, please don't put yourself at risk. Cool. Right. So, over to Q&A. Today's question is from Alan J. So, today's question is, how do I make my parries better? Cool. Cheers, Alan J. If there's one thing a coach really likes is a vague question. I'd have to make some assumptions. Sorry, Alan. I'd have to make some assumptions about this question because I haven't quite got enough to go on. So, things that can make a parry better. I'm assuming that you are struggling with your parries. Either your parries aren't working, or they're scrappy or untidy or anything like that. First thing I would say, first piece of advice I would say is check your distance. Time and distance are linked. I don't mean that in a wider, more cosmic sense, but a typical thing that I find is that people say, I've just not got the time to parry. This guy's fast, this guy's good, this guy's a great fighter. He's so fast, my parries aren't quick enough. Maybe. But if you're running out of time to do your parries, whatever that parry may be, try increasing the distance. Very short amount of time. Increase the distance, longer amount of time. So usually the biggest culprit of a bad parry is distance, and then kind of by proxy, timing. If you tweak the distance, you can increase the time that you have to react, and you may find that that may be enough just to give you a little bit of a tidier parry. A second aspect may just be a matter of practice. We all, when we're in a lesson, when we do one-on-one stuff with our coaches, we all fight like world-class fighters. We are all gold medal Olympians when we do our lessons, because it's against a compliant target. But as soon as we get into a fight, the opponent doesn't want to be hit. Shocker, I know. The opponent really doesn't want to be hit. So the thing that you're parrying is different. The intention is different. So there's that drive to hit when there isn't in a lesson. It's why whenever I do a one-to-one lesson, I hit my students. Not, do it again, Timmy. Not like that. But, if they fluff their parry, I push through and I smack them. Because you'd be amazed at the feedback that gives a student. So it may be a matter of just practicing your parries and keeping them tidier. Just run through the forms, run through the wisdoms, make sure the hands are in the right position. If in doubt, ask your coach. That's what your coach is there to do. That's your coach's job, is to spot these things and tidy them up. The classic newbie mistake is any hanging parry. Here, okay? It's not, because that's how you get chopped in the hands, okay? You can always tell a newbie because in between their hands, there's always little divots taken out of the sword grip, okay? Here, protect the head. Here, protect the head, okay? Get behind it. So things like sword placement, rubbing the mic an absolute treat. Make sure that the sword placement is correct as well. So think about your placement, think about your form, but really think about that distance. That's a huge, huge culprit of a bad parry. And then finally, choose the right tool for the job. What parry are you using? And what I mean by that, a whole bunch of parries. I'm assuming that it's longsword. This sounds like a beginner's question. And most beginners generally start out in longsword unless they're at a specific club. If it's not longsword, Alan, apologies, mate. But I will assume this is longsword. There are different parries, different jobs. You've got hanging parries, you've got parries with the tip up, parries outside, parries that are in the middle, you've got opposition parries, you've got beat parries, active parries, passive parries, there's all sorts of stuff. So look at the parry that you're doing. What's the context around it? What I mean by that is, if you're, for example, doing a hanging parry, okay, are you actually being hit in this line here, or anywhere between here? If not, if you're being attacked to the ribs, but you're just going in because this is a lovely big sweeping motion that you've been taught to do, it may be the wrong one. It might be easier for you, if you're being attacked here, to get the pommel down, catch it on the quillon, go for that opposition thrust to the chest, or even slide it in for a cut, false edge cut, lever it round, something like that. So think about the context, wider context, take a step back. Sometimes when your parries or something like this is wrong, it's very easy to be like, oh, why is it wrong? Why am I doing it wrong? Well, maybe it's just as simple as the wrong thing. Maybe just take a step back, look at what they're doing. And you might take a couple of blows figuring it out. But this is the whole process. This is learning. So look at what they're doing and then try and use the right tool. Hope that makes sense, Alan, and I hope I've been of some use. Cool, right, so we've made it for another episode of the HEMA Show. Thank you very much for sticking around with us. Make sure you do all that YouTube-y stuff, or like the channel, that really helps. Please subscribe, hit the bell icon to make sure you're notified when we do anything new. And please do watch to the end. Hopefully these things, you're finding them useful, you're finding them helpful. Please share with your friends and share the love. Get us going around. We're going to keep making content, so hopefully you guys are enjoying what we're doing. But until then, see you later. Nipple.